375, it is not a murder docket. That we do not have a cold case unit in SA, so SAPS does not have a cold case. Who was actually the one that opened that docket? I'm back, I'm back. And I am bringing you the latest review analysis from the Senzo case. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, and let's get started. As we all know, last week was Gininda Day, which started on Wednesday. That was the first time Brigadier Gininda took the stand in the main trial. We heard from him in the trial, within the trial, but now Baloyi was like, I need somebody to close this case, and who would be the perfect person? The IO, okay, the investigating officer was the perfect person, and Gininda came to the state. We have all been anticipating Brigadier Gininda's evidence in chief, and it has been nothing short of skaga after skaga after skaga after objection. And shows are busy here. They're up and down. Okay, let's get into what Gininda actually had to say. Advocate Baloyi firstly directed Brigadier Gininda to the cold case unit. As you all know, everybody seems to believe that we do not have a cold case unit in SA, so SAPS does not have a cold case unit. The cold case unit does actually exist, guys. It is not a man-made story out there. While we were talking about that, Brigadier Gininda is then asked about the docket 375, which has been discussed quite often in courts, right? So Baloyi wanted to know what's happening with 375, and Gininda firstly said 375, it is not a murder docket. It is a defeating docket, right? He says that the only docket that is referring to the murder of Senzo Meyiwa, registered docket, is 636. Boof. We have all heard so many different things about 375, but I love how Brigadier Gininda actually got into it and explained how everything all started. And he says that so he was called to take over this case as the cold case unit. He was obviously working with his people, but part of the people that were seconded to actually assist him was Buthelezi and Makubo. So when they first started, he was obviously appointed as the lead of the team, and he requested that everybody gets a copy of the docket and everybody goes and analyze the docket. Once everybody had completed analyzing the docket, they all came back together to give feedback, because he says when they were given the docket, management actually said there is this theory that somebody in the house actually carried out the murder. So Senzo was murdered by somebody in the house. They just need to investigate that and find if it's true or not. So when they got the docket, he made copies of that to his team, and then everybody went to go analyze. He says they came back and there were obviously differences. So he says that once the team had analyzed the dockets, they came back for feedback. Himself and Ramohala, who is now retired, they both believed that they were intruders in the house, and then Buthelezi and Makubo believed there were no intruders in the house. And because of that difference, so due to those differences, the team started to pull apart or split, where they found themselves now working on 636 on their own, and then Makubo and Buthelezi went on to open the 375 docket. So Makubo is actually the one that opened that docket, right? Before we get to 375 and 636, Gininda also says that he believed that there were no intruders in the house based off what management said. Before he looked at the docket, he also believed that there were no intruders in the house. It was after he went through the docket and analyzed the docket that he realized that no man, somewhere. And then he was like, nah, there's no ways that there was no intruder with all the evidence that's in the dockets. Because of these differences now in two cases that are now dealing with the same issue or the same incident, the National Commissioner then appointed an independent person, so Brigadier Perman. Brigadier Perman from the Eastern Cape was then appointed to oversee both these cases. Brigadier Perman then requested the docket from Gininda, and he also requested the 375 docket. Brigadier Perman was also has been assisted by Colonel Lots, right, who is now a brigadier in the anti-corruption unit in Western Cape. So they were working together, and they obviously wanted to find out, get to the bottom of what the issues are, because now you have these two teams that are fighting and having differences. They requested the 636 docket and 375 docket, and Gininda provided the 636 docket, but then they received some resistance from Buthelezi and Makubo in regards to 375. So they never actually got to see the 375 docket until a meeting was requested where all parties were then requested to come, and then Makubo and Buthelezi came with docket 375. And in that meeting, the meeting didn't really go well because Brigadier Perman was also questioning the procedures that were followed, or the protocol that was followed in order for them to get to where they are. And Makubo and Buthelezi did not take kindly to that. They ended up actually leaving the meeting with docket 375. That was the end of 375. As you know, till this date, it has an indictment that has not been signed. So we're not sure if the docket has been investigated. We're not sure what's happening with 375. All we know is we are not going to be looking at 375 until 636 is done. That is the NPA's office. That's where they stand with that issue. At this point, Brigadier Gininda says that they had no idea when they were having this meeting with Brigadier Perman and Lots and with the DPP, they had no idea who the intruders were. Right, all he knew is there were intruders based on his analysis of the docket. Right now, Advocate Baloyi asked Gininda, what were those factors that made you believe that they were actually intruders? He says he looked at it from the point of Longwe, because Longwe's name kept coming up, that he is the suspect for killing Senzo Meyiwa. So he says he firstly looked at the phones of the people in the house. He said at one point all the phones were at Kelly Khumalo's house, and then they all moved to the hospital, apart from the phone that was stolen from Kelly Khumalo, or allegedly stolen from Kelly Khumalo. That phone went to the hostel. It connected to the Muleleki Tower, and we all know that Pinky's evidence, section 205, shows us where that tower is. It is not within Kelly Khumalo's vicinity or the hospital. We know all the towers that you connect to when you're at Kelly Khumalo's house and when you're at the hospital. It is not Muleleki Tower. Muleleki Tower is at the hostel. So that phone was at the hostel, and Longwe's phone was at the hospital. So that was his first point. If there were no intruders, you would expect Kelly Khumalo's phone to be at Kelly's house or at the hospitals like the other phones. You don't expect it to move to a different place because there's no one else in the house that went there. And then Advocate Baloyi asked Brigadier Gininda to go through Pinky and Stain's section 205s or cell phone downloads to actually see where the phone was, Kelly Khumalo's phone was, and he put into record where the phone was, which is it was by the Muleleki Tower, which is by the hostel. So he basically corroborated that evidence. Gininda says that he also went through the DNA report, and the DNA report excluded everybody in the house from the hat sample. So they analyzed the DNA from the hat, and they realized that it doesn't match anyone in the house. So whoever it belongs to is not in the house. So then he concluded that, well, then there must have been somebody else in the house that matched this hat. That is how he read the DNA results. And it's so funny that the DNA results became the defense's biggest defense, that, well, DNA didn't match anyone. Of course, Advocate Baloyi also asked Gininda to go through the DNA report that was from the DNA expert that was testifying in court to corroborate his understanding of what happened, and he read into record that the DNA did not match anyone in the house. He also says he looked at the AVL report for Longwe's car and he realized that Longwe's car was actually at the hospital when everybody's phone was at the hospital. So there is no way that Longwe could have done this and still went to hospital, because the witnesses' statements of the witness in the house are also saying that there was an intruder. So they're not saying Long is the one who did it. Also, the statements of neighbors who were outside, like Ntabi saying and her friend in the car, they said they saw somebody run from the house. So that is not consistent with Longwe shooting Senzo Meyiwa. There's also the evidence of Kaya Ngashe, who is the neighbor, who also says he saw intruders. He did not say Longwe is the one who shot somebody in the house. There is also statements from neighbors who actually helped with the identity kit to identify one of the suspects, the one that was wearing a hoodie, Untanzi. That evidence was provided by somebody who was on the streets, not somebody who was inside. So it's also independent people from the family that are also saying they were intruders, right? And obviously also the witnesses in the house, all their statements are saying they were intruders. So he was finding it very difficult to believe that Longwe could be the one who did this. After that, the description of the one suspect with dreadlocks also came from Ntabiseng and her friend, and the other neighbor, Mkaleni, he's the one that gave the description of the suspect with the hoodie on. So independent people from the people in the house were also describing that there was an intruder. He also says the first officers to respond to the call from the Kelikumalo house, they also said that there were intruders who came into the house, ran away into the park, even though there was a misunderstanding because they first went to the hospital, then came back and went to the house. But the call they received said there were intruders who went into the house and then ran out to the park. Also consistent with all the other evidence and not consistent with Longwe being the one who actually fired the gun to shoot Senzo Meyiwa. Brigadier Gininda says that I was convinced that they were intruders in the house. Now it was just a matter of who were these intruders. Brigadier Gininda makes it clear that Gerinel came on board as a watching brief for the family. Gerinel is the reporting line for the family. Gerinel is the one that is keeping the family updated with the case. From then until now, he is still reporting to the family. As I told you guys last week, that the Senzo Meyiwa family is split because Sifiso Meyiwa tried to fire Gerinel, but Sifiso's mom and sister said no, we want him to stay, and he has stayed from then until now, and everybody's happy with how the case has been handled. Gininda says even the fact that there were these two theories of there were people in the house, and the other theory of there was no people, there were intruders in the house, and the other theory that there were no intruders in the house. He says this was discussed with Gerinel and we came to an understanding. Lots of information was exchanged. We had multiple meetings after that, which left us to where we are today. And everybody is still happy to this day, apart from those that are busy with podcasts and stuff. I guess. And then it gets very interesting because Gininda says that he receives a call from the National Commissioner at the time, who says that he is with somebody that has information on the case. Gininda says, keep him there, I'm coming, because they were at the National Commissioner's office. He gets there and he meets Zungu. And we all know Zungu because Zungu has testified in the main trial just before the trial, within the trial. Zungu tells Brigadier Gininda that his dad might have information that could actually assist the case because he heard A, B, and C. And then Gininda's like, Zungu, who's actually a officer of the law, he's a policeman, said, you know, we don't work on hearsay evidence. Please organize a meeting with your dad so we can get a statement from him. He says it was difficult for Zungu to get the statement from the dad because they are actually family. These people that the dad is implicating are actually family, and they were hoping that it doesn't go the way that Gininda was saying it should go. So, but Gininda was like, nah, I need a statement. So finally, Zungu organizes his dad, and then the dad writes his statement, and the absolute Zungu statement is what we now know as the absolute Zungu evidence. That is how it came about. That is how absolute Zungu actually ended up writing an affidavit. His son came forward first, and then he came after. We also know that Zungu also experienced his own things with the two accused, or with the accused from that night of the incident. But his my understanding is that his experience, he didn't know what was happening, whereas the father knew what it was. As Brigadier Gininda is telling us this evidence, then Baloyi is referring to the exhibits that are already in court to corroborate what Gininda is saying, right? Gininda also moved on now to the confessions of accused number 1, and then he took us through the whole process of how they actually ended up with the confession, how he started making admissions, and then his rights were read to him, and then like he just gave us the whole trial within a trial. So I'm not gonna go through that. He also made reference to Babzwane's evidence, and obviously Babzwane is the traditional healer that assisted them with luck or whatever it is that he played, the role that he played to assist them in thinking or in them believing that they were going to be able to do this job and be successful. And once they were successful, they came back and they gave him money, and they actually paid him more than they usually pay him because of the success, right? Obviously Babzwane was actually my favorite witness because he was so funny, this funny old man. But it was nice to hear how Gininda says that, you know what, we got Babzwane, he was number 1 kanti ozovela naye, and he was like heavily like, you know, bebamfasile, begahamba neswat or whatever, begahamba nama-hawks, begahamba nabantu heavy, you know, he was like heavily locked up, and Babzwane was like, mfana kasibi kwenze njani maso bakubophe kangaka. And we all know how Babzwane also said the same thing when he was testifying with mfana kasibi, I'm fair to like kwenze njani, you know. So dilo tsaba 80 kilabo from Mfana Kasbiya, because Mfana Kasbiya was here and then Babzwane was here, and now they could not deny each other. And then from there, Brigadier Gininda is like, 1 + 1 is 2. These ones know each other, which is true, really, because now Babzwane had to come and testify with, how do you guys know each other? And Babzwane was like, I will sing. And he sang. We move on to the pointing out photos. So Brigadier Gininda went through the photos that were taken. So Brigadier Gininda was going through the photos from Mhlahlua's album of the pointing out, and he was obviously explaining, this is what it is, this is where it is. And Advocate Mnisi was like, excuse moi, you cannot do that. You cannot tell us, you cannot speak for the pictures, right? And then Shololelena was like, you cannot speak for the pictures. Hey, you can't do that. It's absolutely incorrect. Baloilena was trying to explain what. But ultimately, that's right, is like, continue. And then Gininda, because because I also want to put in my file. Mr. Mnisi, you know very well, as the investigating officer, after somebody confesses, I have to go there and make sure that the confession aligns with the evidence that I have. I had to corroborate that evidence that was given and the confession. You used to be a prosecutor, you should know this, Mr. Mniginigi. Gininda, How dare you? How dare you, Gininda? As I said, that I am reading these pictures, I am reading the notes from the album, and I'm telling you where this is, because I know, I've been here, I had to go, I had to check it out, I had to understand. I know, okay, I'm not just thumb sucking that this is a car. You can see that Senzo's car, you can see that's hostel, but if you can't see, I can see. Otherwise we can get into a car after here and we can go see. But anyway, he continued with the pictures, Brigadier Gininda, and he was allowed. I just want to say that, and Maniginig, none of them were actually sustained. So none of them were accepted. They were just flying up and down for mahal. Kirile nkolona kiri Gininda watla. Bona no. Bona no. Your faves are seeing flames. Brigadier Gininda is still on the stand. We will be seeing him on Monday. I think Tuesday as well. I think he's not going to be available for the entire week. He's not going to be available for the whole week. So he will be available for some days. I think Thursdays and Fridays, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, he might not be available. I'm not sure. But Brigadier Gininda is dropping skakas, guys. Tell me why, when Brigadier Gininda was going through the downloads of Accused 3, telling us all the monies that Accused 3 had photos of, guys, why do you take photos of pictures, and why do you caption them? Why do you caption them such scary captions? Ikukulo mhlaba, isono somhlaba, isono sowatwat, ngifanini ngizokhohlwa. Also, please, somebody interpret to me what accused number 3 was saying on those monies that he was captioning, right? As Gininda was talking about those monies, here comes Baloy, and Baloy says, the picture of money in the transparent bag. Was this the only time you encountered this picture on Accused 3's phone? He says, no. This picture was also found on Kelly Kumalo's phone, and the very same picture was found on Longwe's phone. But Longwe. Guys, I'm busy trying to exclude Longwe here. Even the evidence that has been led in court has been excluding Longwe, apart from this picture now. Picture guy, but Longwe, are you involved or are you not involved? Please come forward and tell us. But we have gone through enough as a country. For these skakas to keep, you cannot be dropping skakas at this point in time. Do you guys think Longwe was involved? And if he was involved, what capacity was he involved? What was his involvement? Do you think he's the mastermind? I don't think Longwe can be the mastermind. There's no ways. We know our mastermind already. Are we saying there were 2 masterminds, or the mastermind had a ass boy? Like a mastermind and an ass boy. There's still more to come. Gininda is bringing more fire. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching me. Today, I am still watching. I'm still following. I will keep you updated. Hopefully, I will drop another video during the week. But if not, let's meet again on Sunday. Thank you for following. Thank you for switching on the notification button and subscribing to my channel. We have literally smashed our weekly goal. We are now moving at full speed to this week's goal. Hopefully we can also meet it before the end of the week and focus on the next week. Thank you for being part of my channel, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for shoving this channel in everybody's face that I ask you to. You are truly appreciated. Bye bye.